let's talk about Emperor Schwab, the first global emperor of the world. Emperor Schwab is obviously a joke title, and I don't actually think it's actually going to turn out the way that he expects. But it is interesting how the world is getting around and genuflecting to a German guy of no particular importance. Who is?
That's what rings a bell. Have we not seen something like this a little bit before?
It's genuinely if you were going to design a Hollywood villain, he would have been born in Nazi Germany in a place called Ravensburg, and he would have a very German accent. He'd look like a tortoise, and he would somehow be in control of the minds of the people around, of the world leaders, wouldn't he?
Has he got a cat?
I don't know. I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't. But yeah, he does look like an archetypal Bond villain, which is crazy. Does. But anyway, before we go on, if you want to support us, go over to lotus.com, sign up for £5 a month, and go and read or listen to the audio on Connor's excellent deep think, the WEF's ESGs are the mark of the beast, in which he explains what the WEF's connection with the ESG scores are. And of course, it's all intertwined, as you might expect. But anyway, Connor does a great job of laying it out there. So let's go over and have a look at what's happening in Davos at the moment. Well, 5,000 Swiss Army soldiers being deployed to protect the World Economic Forum. Only 5,000, eh?
And Davos was the boss of the Daleks.
I don't think there's any connection.
It's all linked. I think it's linking in now.
Mimetically linked. Yeah. So the Post-Millennial reported that 5,000 Swiss Army soldiers have been deployed to Davos. But the thing is, there was a quick fact check on this from Newsweek. No. It's not 5,000. It's up to 5,000. It's like, okay. Fine. It's not much of a
difference.
Yeah, well, okay. So it could well be 5,000. Depends on how many protesters arrive, I suppose. Anyway, so before we begin, let's have a quick flashback to Klaus Schwab's influence, shall we say, around the world in democratic governments. Let's play this first clip.
What we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more, half of this cabinet are for our actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum.
Isn't that remarkable? Just they go on TV in front of cameras and just start saying, yeah, half of the Canadian cabinet are our guys, and they're doing what we want. Isn't that just amazing?
This, I mean, the WF, the public's knowledge of it has only really started this last year or two, maybe.
It's been brewing for a while.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But
it's becoming part of the public consciousness.
Yeah, you could get away with all this before.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can get away with this much longer saying stuff like that.
But the question of who's actually at this year is very strange. Because, I mean, as Troy Nails here is asking, why is the FBI director speaking at the World Economic Forum? Well, what's the director of the FBI got to do with any of that? I mean, okay, if it was about elected politicians and business leaders coming to discuss the world's problems, I mean, that sounds nefarious to me, but like, why would the director of the FBI need to be there? It's interesting. And anyway, so we'd get various politicians turning up at the World Economic Forum, such as a Democratic senator called Joe Manchin. And he has some opinions on things. Let's watch.
The problem that we have is the open press system and basically all the platforms. So if you're able to have 5 platforms, social platforms, that you can basically personify the extremes, somebody who is extremely right or extremely left, and it seems like that is the majority speaking. They're not the majority, but they're basically driving everybody to make a decision. What side are you on? Are you on this side or this side? And in America, there's only one side, the American side. It's not the Republican side or Democrat. We should be coming together to solve the problems from a different angle.
Isn't that interesting? The problem that we have is the open press and all the plurality of platforms, because it allows people to express opinions that are either extremely one way or extremely another way. And I find it really interesting. He says there's only one side, the American side. So it will try and convince your fellow Democrats about that, considering that they're constantly going on about, what about immigrants? What about minorities? What about like hyphenated Americans? Like, there's not just the one side. There are lots of sides.
But he has got a point.
He does have a point.
He has a point that all our societies now are splitting along race lines, sexuality lines, political line. It doesn't matter. And the point I would get out of that was that's what he foresees as the big problem.
It is. And he's not wrong
Yeah.
that political polarization is a consequence of a free press.
Yeah.
But this isn't exactly the first time that we've had political polarization because of the free press. But what can be done about it? Restricting people's freedoms? Centralizing all the platforms?
Well, you have to look at the pros and cons. So the cons of the free press of what we just described, then it can, split people. You can have people you don't want on there speaking. But the pros of having a free press is we stop tyrants and we stop it turning into a dictatorship. So you have to pick the one you think's more important.
We have to endure the polarization, and the polarization can only be stopped by discourse between the two sides.
Yes.
That's the problem. The issue, and this is something I always found really strange, is that we never actually... it should be some sort of mandatory thing where politicians have to talk to one another, like in a public arena or something like that. Like, I mean, BBC Question Time is actually quite a good thing for this, because at least they have at least one right-wing voice, and then they field questions. But the Americans don't do anything like that.
No, and what I'm tired of is people blaming social media.
Yeah.
So this is a human trait.
Yeah.
Social media enables people who want to do this to do this. Social media hasn't created this. This was already within us, splitting up, having got another side, trying to get people onto your side. Social media is just the latest tool we use in this.
Yeah, it just accelerates the problem, but it didn't create the problem. But anyway, so Klaus Schwab is going to tell us the role of the Metaverse in his new global order. Let's watch.
The Global Collaboration Village is a pioneering effort to use the Metaverse for the public good, to create global cooperation and to strengthen global cooperation in the Metaverse or using Metaverse technologies. And we are pleased to create this Global Collaboration Village in cooperation with Accenture and with Microsoft. So the idea is to bring all the stakeholders, governments, business, civil society, together on a continued, sustained basis. This is the next phase, the next big phase of development in the virtual world.
It's especially important for this vision of a village without borders. It's an open development process, and it is an open development philosophy. We're creating at Microsoft, through Microsoft Mesh, a software platform that will be accessible to people through a variety of different hardware devices. This particular project, in our view, is of enormous importance for the world because of the role that the World Economic Forum plays in the world. This is an opportunity to create a village without borders.
So the interesting thing there to me is not really the use of the metaverse, because I don't know how much that's really going to catch on. It's the underlying philosophy that underpins this. A village without borders. Well, who's in this village? Well, it has to be everyone, because it doesn't have a border, so there's no particular delineating place where you're not in the village. So essentially the remit is global. I mean, it's not anything revelatory to say, but who gave them the permission to take what's mine and incorporate it into their village? This is my question. Where did this arrogance come from?
It comes from world leaders who have always been arrogant, who always think they know best.
Yeah.
This is lacking if we want to live in a democracy, this is lacking any hint, any sense of democracy whatsoever.
Hang on, put a pin there. We'll come back to that in a second, because that's exactly right. And so here's a speech by Idris Elba, the actor, at the World Economic Forum 2023 meeting, in which he just says what we're all thinking. Let's watch.
We understand the power and the change that can come from this room. Davos has become the de facto platform for governments, for corporates, for philanthropists, for activism, for protesters to mobilize quickly, which is why we're all here, because we can move with agility and speed, and your speed is needed now.
It's become the de facto center for world governance. Yeah, I agree, Idris. That is something that is the problem. And so, what are the problems? Well, it turns out there are many problems. Crisis after crisis after crisis. Non-stop crises, in fact, as Klaus explains to us.
We couldn't meet at a more challenging time. We are confronted with so many crises simultaneously. What does it need to master the future? I think to have a platform where all stakeholders of global society are engaged. Governments, business, civil society, the young generation, and I could go on, I think is a first step. Only if we are involved with all our passion to construct and to shape the future, I'm convinced we will overcome the present multi-crisis.
Master the future. It's an ominous sounding phrase, isn't it? I mean, who is the master of the future? The answer is, of course, nobody, because the future is unwritten and a lot is going to happen that we can't predict. But we've got lots of crises. Of course, the scope of the crises, not local, are they? They're not small scale. No, it's quite wild. Let's watch.
Dear friends, scientifically, this is not a climate crisis. We are now facing something deeper. Mass extinction, air pollution, undermining ecosystem functions, really putting humanity's future at risk. This is a planetary crisis.
This is a safety crisis, but above all, it is also a justice crisis. Many areas in the world are uninhabitable. This uninhabitable zone is increasing. If we continue with our greenhouse gas emissions, then by 2070, as many as 3 billion people will live in uninhabitable zones.
How are they going to live in uninhabitable zones?
Nice way of saying they'll be dead.
I don't know if that is. I think what it is their view of what uninhabitable is it's not very comfortable for a middle-class person who lives in somewhere nice.
It can mean whatever you want it to
Yeah,
mean.
but I don't think 3 billion people will actually live in uninhabitable zones. But you can see the scope of the plans. It's not just a localized crisis. No, it's a planetary crisis. Like everyone on the planet, you're in crisis. Be afraid. Be terrified. And it's not even just the planet. It transcends the planet. Let's watch.
And also our faith leaders. They know that this crisis is much more than physical and environmental schisms. We have a deeply wounded spirit as a people that is in desperate need of healing and restoration. And we must look to our Almighty Creator to find our proper place in humanity.
Right.
It's nice that they're going lighthearted now and encouraging fancy dress.
Yeah, she's apparently a Native American leader. I mean, she doesn't look very Native American, but I wouldn't know. But the point is, it's not just a material planetary crisis. We're in a spiritual crisis. Everything about what it is to be human is in crisis. This is the driving impetus that justifies everything that they're doing. Now, I would say that this is a product of kind of echo chamber thinking, where there are a bunch of people who have talked themselves up and up and up into a radical position that will justify, well, horrible things. But we're not finished cranking the lever, putting the pressure in. Let's watch this from Al Gore, Mr. Correct Predictions himself.
Still putting 162 million tons into it every single day. And the accumulated amount is now trapping as much extra heat as would be released by 600,000 Hiroshima-class atomic bombs exploding every single day on the earth. That's what's boiling the oceans, creating these atmospheric rivers and the rain bombs and sucking the moisture out of the land and creating the droughts and melting the ice and raising the sea level and causing these waves of climate refugees predicted to reach 1 billion in this century. Look at the xenophobia and political authoritarian trends that have come from just a few million refugees. What about 1 billion? We would lose our capacity for self-governance on this world. We have to act.
I must have missed some news articles because I didn't realise we was in so much trouble.
I didn't realise the oceans were boiling. I didn't realise there were rain bombs, whatever that is.
600,000 atomic bombs going off every day.
It's the equivalent of, yes, we're told, and we'll lose our capacity for self-government, which surely is not a problem from their perspective, actually. But no, that's mental and obviously extreme. And like all of Al Gore's other predictions, is not going to come true. Al Gore predicted that by 2013 there'd be no ice left on the polar ice caps and no more polar bears. Neither of those things are true. In fact, there are more polar bears than ever. Anyway, so the point being is that these people do see themselves as being different to you. They see themselves as being the world controllers. I should have plugged our Brave New World book club, really. They definitely see themselves as the world controllers, and they see themselves as a privileged and special class, as John Kerry just tells us.
And when you stop and think about it, it's pretty extraordinary that we, select group of human beings, because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives, are able to sit in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet. I mean, it's so almost extraterrestrial to think about, quote, saving the planet. And if you said that to most people, they think you're just a crazy tree-hugging, lefty, liberal, do-gooder, whatever, and there's no relationship. But really, that's where we are.
Just crazy, isn't it?
Insanely arrogant.
I think all leaders are like this, go back 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 years. We have certain traits in certain people who want to be the leader of the tribe, and then leader of the region, leader of the country. Countries aren't big enough now. Now I've got to be leader of the world.
Well, I mean, this is literally what they used to write in their own sort of personal inscriptions. Like the Assyrian kings would be the king of the four corners of the earth. The Chinese emperor had the mandate of heaven. It's unbelievable how disconnected from reality these people seem to be. But they're special. They're different to you. You see, they've been touched by the divine. They are above you mere normals. You don't even understand about saving the planet. God, you're ridiculous.
Corrupts.
And they're very aware that you are the problem. Let's watch.
We need to overcome the most critical fragmentation. And the most critical fragmentation is between those who take a constructive attitude and those who are just bystanders, observers, and even go into the negative, critical, and confrontational attitude. But the spirit of Davos is positive, is constructive.
You're not going into a confrontational or negative attitude, are you, Nick?
I hope I've not got a reputation for that.
Neither have I. But this is the point. So they have delineated we are the masters of the entire world. It's our job to save the entire world, and you can either save the world with us, or you are confrontational and negative. And who knows what follows from this delineation. Thankfully, there are at least some people who are not having any of this, like Ron DeSantis, who accurately characterized it recently. Let's watch.
They do this thing in Davos. They're doing it next week. All these elites come in, the World Economic Forum, and basically, their vision is they run everything, and everybody else is just like a serf, like a peasant. Very, very problematic, I think, in the direction they want to go. And what I've said in Florida is that type of stuff coming out of Davos, those policies are dead on arrival in the state of Florida.
Bravo. And he's not wrong. That's exactly how they see it. I mean, what's really interesting is to get into the World Economic Forum this year, apparently, you have to take, this is journalists and participants apparently, have to take a PCR test upon arrival. And if you don't, if you take the test, or if you don't take the test, then your ID is deactivated. But if you take it and you test positive for COVID, your ID is also deactivated. But there is no chance that happens to Klaus Schwab, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's no chance that Klaus Schwab gets denied for testing positive for COVID to his own meeting. So you can see in their own organization, there is this 2-tier system that DeSantis is calling out here. Oh yeah, there are going to be the people who run everything and then the peasants. Yeah. And you are a peasant. So let's be clear. So I thought we'd take a quick look at the WEF guest list this year, which is interesting for several reasons. So you've got, if you scroll down, you can see it's like huge. There's lots and lots of world leaders there. And if you can scroll right the way down, because it's in alphabetical order, go to the United Kingdom at the bottom, you can see that Grant Shapps, Secretary of State for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy of the United Kingdom, is there. Keir Starmer is there, Leader of the Opposition. Kemi Badenoch is there. Zach Goldsmith. The Lord Mayor of the City of London is there. The Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer from the Labour Party is there. The Chief of MI6 is there, hanging out with the Chief of FBI, I suppose. And, of course, the Dark Lord himself, Tony Blair, is there. So it's not a partisan issue. Both parties have been captured by this. But this is not as good as it looks, and there have been rumblings that actually there are people who are noticeably absent. And this is quite an interesting article on Sky News, actually, because the person who wrote it, Ed Conway, points out that, look, there is a concern with the convening of power in Davos, which is unaccountable, who gets to decide. And of course, all of these people are direct beneficiaries of the centralization of this power and wealth and the continuance of the global order. So it is worrying that these people would network so intensively at such a location like this, especially as there seems to be no form of accountability to anyone other than themselves. But he does say that the guest list this time looks considerably less heavyweight than usual. There is no US president, no UK prime minister. Emmanuel Macron isn't even there. And so that's very interesting. The sort of the crisis, the post-COVID and the Ukraine war crisis seem to be damaging Davos's influence here. And so who knows? Maybe this is a sign of weakness. And there is also another very interesting article that was published by The Guardian. We'll go through this a little bit of depth because this is actually really interesting, and it tells us a lot more about Emperor Schwab's own opinion of himself and the way he runs his organization. So they say a group of current and former WEF staff members have contacted The Guardian, said that 82-year-old Schwab is a law unto himself and surrounded himself with nobodies who are incapable of running the organization that he has founded. That's interesting. Who could have imagined that this German man thought of himself such a way? Klaus has been at the helm of the WEF for 52 years. He was born in 1938. 122 of the 195 states in the world right now did not even exist. He is completely unaccountable to anyone inside and outside the organization. The group said it wants to remain anonymous. We are hesitant to come forward as Klaus is very well connected and can make life very difficult for us even after we leave the WEF. There isn't much of a future for the WEF beyond Klaus, not just because there isn't a clear successor. Interesting how the need for a successor here.
Emperors tend to not want to have a successor because that's how you get stabbed in the back.
Quite often it is, yeah, especially if it's not one of your own sons. And even then, sometimes it happens if it's one of your own sons. But also, if you don't have a successor, then the empire is thrown into a succession crisis and a civil war. So it's actually, a smart emperor will actually have someone prepared. But anyway, he says there's no clear successor, they say, but also because his manager's board is such as viper's nest that senior leadership will be at each other's throats the moment the old man pops off. So it's something like the death of Alexander the Great we're looking at in the future of Klaus Schwab here. Klaus picks his leaders using the same criteria Putin uses to pick his deputies for the State Duma. Loyalty, guile, and sex appeal. The quality of the people at the top is reflective of the type of people who work for the rest of the organization. And the head of one UK company, again, all of these people are kept anonymous, but I do find this very interesting. One head of one UK company agreed there appeared to be no successor to Schwab. He says, my impression is that he will die with his boots on. not very wise if you're creating the first global government, which is what's happening. What do you make of all this?
I think part of this has come out of the failings of the UN. Mm-hmm. So the UN was set up so countries could speak to each other, liaise with each other, and it doesn't work. It's never worked. So this guy set up the WEF, and in the beginning, 10 years ago, I can understand why world leaders and people would want to go, because important people are there. So politicians in the UK across the world can have private conversations with people without the civil service involved, without it being minuted, and they can have some real good discussions and maybe get some things sorted, because tomorrow on Monday when I go back to work, if me and you talk, we're going to have bureaucrats involved and we're never going to get things solved. I think that's probably why people went in the beginning. I think they've got their own. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's underhand. I wouldn't even say it's a conspiracy theory.
No, it's not conspiracy at all.
They're telling us exactly what they want to do. Yeah. And part of me understands it, because when I was a kid and you'd watch science fiction movies on TV, in the future, the world had a world government. And that's because over a million years, thousands of years, we all bred with each other. Our civilizations all became one, and all became.
It's the Whig teleology that eventually humanity will have a united world government, because essentially we're all the same, really, is the Whig view of things.
Yeah, and I can see that being one future, but we're nowhere near people giving up their countries, their sovereignty, their religions, their culture,
their differences.
Huge. I mean, we just look at some of the cities in the UK, and we can't integrate people in the UK. Nope. So how are we going to integrate people across the world? So if it's possible, it's tens of thousands of years in the future. But the fact that we've got some A-list guests now not attending, it's because the WEF are getting a very poor reputation of being this underhand, sneaky, backdoor organisation. So politicians now don't want to be accused. You imagine someone running to be a prime minister in the UK. I'm going to do this. But are you taking your orders from somebody else?
Which is exactly what it looks like.
And so they know that will damage them being elected. So I think big politicians now and future politicians I would imagine, will start keeping away from this unless they believe in this.
Which a lot of them do. I mean, Schwab literally saying we've penetrated the cabinets of governments. I mean, that's sinister.
You'd think that would be enough in a democracy to make sure you were never voted in again to that cabinet, because we have this guy saying he's your boss.
I mean, you would think it would be illegal and treasonous, actually. Like you surely can't have politicians who are beholden to foreign powers. That can't be, right? You would think. I would think.
Yeah, you would have to prove that they're a foreign power. But I do get your point. There is a point there. You've got someone saying that person has fealty to me, and I'm elected by nobody.
Your loyalty is surely to Canada, Mr. Trudeau.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I'm a big fan of Klaus Schwab, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just find it interesting. And again, they just do it all in front of cameras, so there's no conspiracy here. This is just what they say. And it's all a part of an ideology. You can see this sort of crazed globalist ideology that the planet's about to die, humanity's about to be wiped out, 3 billion people are going to live in uninhabitable places. It's insane, and very few of the predictions about this sort of subject in the past have ever come true. I'm not really inclined to believe that the predictions of the future are going to be true either. Anyway, I welcome our new globalist overlords like everyone else.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Contemplation series, this episode on morality. And if you'd like to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.